I grew up believing family was everything. My parents worked hard their entire lives to give me, and my younger sister, Amina, a decent upbringing. We weren't rich, not even close. But our home was always filled with the values of loyalty, respect, and sacrifice. Or at least, that's what I thought. From a very young age, I learned the power of hard work. While my friends spent money on new clothes, gadgets, and weekend trips, I worked part-time jobs and studied late into the night. I wasn't chasing luxury or fame, my dream was simple. I wanted to buy a proper home for my parents. A place where they could live comfortably without worrying about rent, landlords, or leaking ceilings. Every paycheck I earned, every bonus I saved, every promotion I fought for, I stacked those rupees carefully in the bank. Marriage, I postponed it. Travel, I cut it out. Even small joys, like treating myself to a better phone or eating out, became luxuries I refused. My coworkers often joked, "Do you ever live for yourself?" But I would smile and reply, "One day I'll see my parents in a home they deserve, and that will be enough for me." And that day finally came. After 12 years of sacrifice, I stood outside a beautiful two-story house with a garden at the front. My heart pounded as I signed the papers. The deed was in my name. It had to be because it was my savings, my blood and sweat that paid for it. But in my heart, the house was already theirs. When I handed them the keys, my mother's eyes filled with tears. My father patted my back with pride. "You've done what I could never do in my lifetime," he said with a cracked voice. My sister Amina clapped happily, hugging me and calling me the best brother in the world. That night, as we moved our old furniture into the new home, I felt complete. Finally, my sacrifices had meaning, or so I thought. Chapter 2. Cracks behind the smiles. Life in the new home began beautifully. My parents would sit on the balcony every evening, sipping tea, while my sister filled the rooms with her chatter and laughter. I worked late hours, but every time I returned, seeing them happy made all the exhaustion disappear. But soon, I noticed changes. Amina began spending more time with our parents than before. At first, I was glad. She had always been a little distant, more self-absorbed, but now she seemed devoted. Yet sometimes I would enter a room and they'd go silent. Conversations would stop abruptly, glances exchanged quickly. I brushed it off. Why would I suspect my own blood? One evening, I overheard my mother telling Amina, "Don't worry, we'll make sure you're secure. He won't say no once everything is done." I thought she was talking about marriage. Maybe they were arranging something for her future. But days later, while cleaning up some documents in my father's study, I found property papers not in my name anymore, but in Amina's. My breath caught, the ink was fresh. My signature was there, only it wasn't mine. I rushed to confront them. My hands shook as I held the papers. What is this? How did my name vanish from my own house? My parents didn't look surprised. My father avoided my gaze. My mother sighed. "We transferred the house to Amina. She needs security. She's a girl. Her future depends on stability. You're strong, you'll manage on your own." I felt the ground crumble beneath me. You forged my name, my signature. This house, I spent my life to buy this, for you, and you hand it to her like I'm nothing. Amina stood there quietly, but her eyes gleamed with triumph. "Brother, don't take it the wrong way. I'll always let you stay here if you need to, but it's better this way. Parents know best." Her words stabbed me deeper than any knife. For the first time in my life, I realized my sacrifices were invisible. My love, my years, my dreams, all of it meant nothing. Chapter 3. The exile and the awakening. That night, I couldn't sleep. The walls of the house I built with my soul felt like prison bars closing in on me. I packed my bag quietly and left without a word. If they wanted Amina to have the house, then let them live with that decision. The following months were the darkest of my life. I moved into a tiny rented apartment, barely bigger than a storeroom. Depression ate me alive. I stopped visiting my parents. I didn't pick up their calls. Every time I remembered their betrayal, my chest tightened like a vice. But pain has a strange way of turning into power. Slowly, I began to rebuild myself. I worked longer hours, took risks, learned about investments and business. While others slept, I read about property markets, stocks, and entrepreneurship. I poured my broken heart into building wealth, not for anyone else this time, just for myself. Years passed, my income multiplied. From a struggling employee, I became a respected businessman. People who once looked down on me now sought my advice. And with every milestone, my wounds healed not completely, but enough to stand tall again. Meanwhile, whispers of my family's situation reached me. Amina had married hastily, but her husband turned out to be greedy and reckless. The house I had bought became a battlefield of quarrels. To maintain their lifestyle, they mortgaged parts of the property. Debts piled up. My parents, once proud of their decision, now lived under constant stress. The house, the very home I had sacrificed everything for, was sinking into ruin, and I knew then fate was giving me a chance. A chance not for revenge of fire and anger, but a sweeter kind revenge served with silence, success, and truth. Chapter 4. Sweet revenge and justice served. It happened on a rainy afternoon. I learned that the house was officially being auctioned off due to unpaid loans. Amina and her husband had failed to clear the debts, and the bank was ready to reclaim it. I attended the auction anonymously. My heart thudded as the bidding began. Others dropped out quickly. The house, though valuable, carried a reputation now. When the final bid was called, I raised my hand. Within minutes, the gavel struck. The house was mine. Not through sacrifice this time, not through blind loyalty, but through power, wisdom, and resilience. Weeks later, eviction notices arrived at the doorstep of my parents and sister. They panicked, cried, begged the bank for mercy. On the day of final handover, they gathered outside, their faces pale, belongings scattered in the rain. That's when I stepped out of the car, their eyes widened, my father's lips trembled, my mother broke into tears. Amina gasped, rage and shame colliding in her face. You, she whispered. Yes, I replied calmly. The house is mine again. Silence. The kind of silence that roars louder than thunder. I looked at them, not with hatred, but with clarity. You betrayed me once. You thought I was weak. But today, I stand here not as your sacrifice, not as your victim, but as someone who chose self-respect over blind love. This house belongs to me. Not because I bought it once, but because I earned it twice. My parents sobbed, begging me to forgive, to let them stay. Amina shouted that I was cruel, ungrateful, but I only smiled faintly. I forgave you a long time ago, but forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean letting you walk over me again. I will not throw you on the streets, but this house is no longer your kingdom. You'll live where your choices have taken you. I turned away, leaving them to absorb the weight of their own betrayal. That night, as I walked through the empty rooms of the house, memories flooded me. My father's pride, my mother's tears of joy, my sister's laughter. But I also remembered the betrayal, the forged signatures, the silence when I begged for answers, and I realized something important. Revenge isn't always about destruction. Sometimes the sweetest revenge is reclaiming what was stolen, standing taller than those who tried to break you, and proving that love without respect is nothing but chains. I closed the door gently, not with anger but with peace. This time, the house was mine, truly mine. White heavy check marked the end.